Welcome to Caffeinated Mornings, a show built around the idea of more conversation and less presentation. We dive deeper into discussions that go beyond the surface of the work. A big thank you to our sponsors who make this show possible. Today's episode is brought to you by the award-winning, strategically driven, independent, full-service agency TDA Boulder. And we can't forget Buck Ross Productions and Coop Studios for helping us capture and share this show with you. A special thanks to The Coffee Ride for keeping us caffeinated, and to Realtor Michelle Sander and the Zeal Group at RE/MAX, CMCI Studio, Snappy Little Numbers for our theme music, and Pro Photo Rental for their continued support. In this episode, we join everyone's favorite designer and host, Jay Farrakane, in an insightful and poignant discussion with writer, speaker, educator, community builder, letterpress printer, and graphic designer Rick Griffith. In this talk, we dive deep with Rick and cover many things design, but particularly his use of graphic design as a gateway to communication and its ability to deliver information and ideas to all. Like most of our talks, we range far beyond design, and we get into the importance of family, the impact of loss, and the value of building the community and what leaving a legacy might look like. So, get comfortable, get caffeinated, and get ready to be inspired and informed with our newest friend, Rick Griffith. Let's go.
Rick Griffith, welcome.
Hi. I'm really confused as to why you use the word legendary. What is the exact legend I'm stepping into?
So, in my mind, and you're making me leap ahead, and I'm cool with that. But in my mind, I've known of your work for so long, and it's been framed in my mind.
So it's more like mythology.
That might be the better.
Than like star quarterback 1-5.
If design does have a star quarterback.
No, definitely not. It's from that. Move on.
The interesting thing to me about your background, though, is too, it's so far, it's bigger than design, too, or graphic design. Writer, speaker, educator. We'll talk about community builder. That's something I'm very interested in. Letterpress printer and graphic designer. But I do think that that's, all encompassed in what that is. And I literally have known about your work for years. And I'll come back to why I think it's made such an impact on me to capitalize on the legendary part. But I recently had the opportunity to come down and meet you at your studio. And Matter. Matter is your design outfit. And I got to peek into the bookstore, which I think is amazing. I was telling Todd and them that it's better than like museum bookstores I've been to.
It's modeled after some of the museum bookstores I've been to for sure. And then
I got MoMA vibes.
No, it's smaller than that for sure. Museum bookstore at MoMA is it's also their product, which is really very special.
Yeah.
Like I can't host a Yoko Ono show, therefore I can't publish a Yoko Ono book, but I own several copies of.
Could we make that happen though?
I mean, I've hosted other people like Ed Fella.
Yeah.
I've hosted other great, talented people and put on exhibitions of their work.
But I think this, even mentioning Ed Fella, for those of you who don't know, those were names that were in my design background of people that I really respect, whether it's heroes, looking up to them. But I found that you do something that's really, in my mind, quite amazing as somebody who is a fan of building community and doing what I can. But your Wednesday breakfast.
Yeah.
This is a thing.
Since 2007.
Want to talk a little bit about Wednesday breakfast?
So Wednesday breakfast originally started out as Thursday lunch in 2007. And what happened after Thursday lunch was that everyone went into a bit of a coma. So we lost all the productivity through Thursday. And then when people napped out or whatever, then it wrecked their evening because they were ready to go to a party at 9 p.m., which really wrecks Friday.
We're in Spain this was.
So it was, yeah. It all depends on how you see work. And at the time, people were reporting to work at 8 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And so Thursday lunch had a cascading negative effect on the productivity of the personnel and the way that we were connected afterwards. So we moved it to Wednesday morning breakfast. And then we also cut the entire morning out for various other types of
Like periphery learning or?
Yeah. Learning,
Interest.
learning, teaching, exchanging. Like everyone at the table gets to do some sort of exchange. And
And we did this start 2000.
2007.
So, and it's funny because I've read a couple of articles recently, namely in the industrial design world, that I thought was fantastic, that a lot of studios are starting to realize this value and parking space for them to work on personal projects or enrichment, whatever you want to call it. And I do think, I don't want to say it's becoming a trend, but it is interesting now that you've kind of like relayed it in the way you have to me. I don't know, I felt very honored, and it was such a special time because I think the act of breaking bread is,
That's for sure.
it's really meaningful. Like I love food and I love people and I love talking about design. So it was great for me to be invited into your shop and your home. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. So number one, thank you for having me. Number two, thank you for being a beacon in design. Is that a better word to use? Beacon, maybe? I know you don't like kudos like that. So
I'm kind of uncomfortable about that. There's a reason why I'm uncomfortable though, right? And I think the reason why I'm largely uncomfortable around it is because I can count on one hand the people who were kind to me when I showed up in Colorado and the people that supported me.
yeah.
So to show up as like a celebrated person or a beacon or, legendary kid in the ass, whatever version of that you want to be with, like to show up like that in the futures is really like talking about, I think, just some of the determination and grit that women and people of color have had to exude in order to succeed in the design field. And I think that like I'm just not alone in that.
Yeah.
In fact, I go to great effort to make sure that women and other designers of color don't feel alone either, and that's an important piece of our reality. And so being like a beacon, it's like, I'll be fine if I'm a beacon if you're black or if you're a woman who's trying to like crack the code of
Yeah.
the patriarchy. But like, as far as I'm concerned, like, it's just not, it's not been particularly easy.
Well, and I got the sense when, and I admire the fact because I do think, we've talked about common backgrounds growing up, the kind of the music we were kind of cultured on, and it has a lot of this, like, especially you growing up in DC at that time, in the whole DIY punk rock music world. I see a lot of that in you because you're like, no one's going to give me this world. I'm just going to make that world. And I got the sense when you like, you invited me in, you're like, hey, I'm totally going to invite you in, but you make what you want out of it. And I super respect that. I think that was the neatest thing, is that there was just this like very openness, knowing all the stuff and the potential back treatments that have been, or even, some of the things that you told me about like how you're treating or respect or lack of.
Yeah, most of the time I lean into a gentleman named Bob Morehouse and another gentleman named Bob Taylor, who, when I moved to Colorado, I moved to Boulder, and they were basically the only two graphic designers and sage advisors that were available to me. Most of the rest of the design community, particularly in the leadership sense, they were kind of, there's also this guy, John Skraybeck, who's no longer a graphic designer, but there's like, it's a pretty short list of people that either clued me into what's up or actively like participated in my enjoying and my determination to be a designer and to continue to be a designer.
Do you think if the road was, it would have been undeniable, your career path would have been different? Sometimes in that like grit achievement, do you feel like you're more self-made in that way? And there has to be a pride associated with it. I feel a little bit about my design background in a similar way. Different challenges for sure, but
the reason why pride is conceived of as a sin is because it is like sort of next level confidence. And I think that there's a confidence that comes with the experience. I have difficulty tapping into the pride piece of it, not because it's labeled as a sin, but also because I have a list of things to do, you know, twice as long as my capacity. And so the time for pride is like, did we do it? Did we do it well? Okay, can we move on? Is there anything in the way? Okay, good, let's go. And it's sort of the next thing. But also, you can get confidence from a lot of things. Like the most shocking confidence that I've received is from holding my wife's hand during the moments that she died.
That's right. You went through
Being with my daughters, but it creates an incredible amount of confidence around the value of your life. And the sort of emotional obligations that you create for a deceased spouse, or even the commitments, the emotional commitments that my daughters and I made to each other. So that gives you incredible confidence, because human beings that tell you that they love you, that gives you a lot of juice, a lot of wings, a lot of like energy.
Yeah.
And the clarity that I have about love, having been loved to the point of executing. Like taking the vows all away from you.
right.
That's a place of incredible confidence. So, you know, I kind of go like, that's the thing that I don't let people fuck with.
Yeah. Good. I mean,
So does landing a great skateboard trick, because I know that we were going to talk about skateboarding.
yes.
And because you always talk about skateboarding, so I'll just put it right in there at the
Yeah.
darkest possible moment and make sure that we talk about skateboarding and remind ourselves right out of it and be like, okay, let's talk about design now. But yeah, like the confidence piece of it, there's things that you let people fuck with because you're like curious about your own. This came up not just 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, but optimization. You're interested in your own optimization, but you're also interested and curious in your own kind of awareness, your body awareness, your mental awareness, and stuff like that. And there's confidence that you can have by being curious and wanting to investigate that in yourself, but there's also confidence that people shouldn't, or generally can't fuck with.
Right.
You know, that's a boundary.
Well, I think you manage a really interesting balance, because I think some of that confidence and some of the experiences you've had, whether it's loss, treatment, those kind of things, I think in my mind, the easy go-to would be closing your cell phone. And I think you've done the opposite. I think it seems so open there. And whether people are participating or not, that's a different thing. I've always seen you as like, I'll welcome, like I said, I'll welcome you in. You guys make out what you want out of it. You're providing the space to function in your sphere, and I do think that is super admirable. Right? Not maybe we don't use the word proud. Did it never come around with the concept of I'm going to build this world so that this kind of experience can happen, and you can share in the way you do, and you can work in the way you want to? Was it? I mean, Mark alluded to consciousness and planning and being like highly clear and aware, but like some things like that, it has a very organic nature to it. But I think I really know you well enough that you're winning too. Like you have, like you said, I've got more things to do than, you know.
Time.
Yeah.
Something I try and help people understand when they come work with us. Like I say, I know what it looks like on the surface, but it takes an incredible amount of planning to have this improvisational life.
I love that. I think that's amazing. When you said that, that stuck with me so much, because I think most creative people function in a way like that, where you're trying to do the thing, like, you know, that when I have this free moment, I have to go pack out this little thing because the unexpected will creep in, and I want to participate in that. At least that's how my life goes.
I think it feels a little bit more like there are days where I just will not be deterred.
But that determination is, I do think, in your experiences, whether that was innately in you the day you were born, or you built it over time, That is the secret to success of most designers that I know.
Oh, I apologize. I mean, I have trouble stringing together 3 days in a row where I will not eat.
Well,
I mean, that's more true.
do you think so?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because there is that curiosity and openness to having your life changed.
Yeah.
That I like to live in. So putting 3, 4, 5, 6 days together where I am completely on mission is difficult. Putting 3 days together is easy, especially if you have a piece of equipment that needs to be repaired.
Right. Well, and you're in that right now, right?
I'm definitely in that right now. I'm currently preparing a 1964 typecaster, which I gave myself a year to acquire one and to acquire the materials for it. And I had it fired up in a year and then I broke it instantly. Yeah.
And so
There's like a couple of people in the room that were there when it happened, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was."
And so, for those of you who don't know, and really you should go take him up on a studio tour, but it is full of massive print equipment, and it's fascinating to see the mechanical part of it. And even when you start thinking and talking to designers that have never even touched his type or seen a machine like this, when you start to see the stuff that you're working through to arrive at creative layouts and communicate ideas through. It's just such a mechanical process to me today that I think is hard for a lot of newer designers to understand, unless they're like literally standing at the machine and see how it works. It's a fascinating process, and you even talking about things breaking. Like now that's in the way of you, like doing expression and that kind of thing too. In the sense of, like, I feel like in the commercial design world that I kind of function in, I know I have to get things out the door. You're doing it in a little bit of an expressionistic kind of thing, but there's that notion. Sometimes I'll even go work on an idea for myself that I just feel like I need to get this out of my head. Do you ever get frustrated with the mechanical sense of it when you do have like a machine breakdown, or is it like, it's just how it goes? How do you deal with that kind of stuff?
Because the list is long. And because I have a brain that likes to do different types of things, I simply move to the next thing that is better lubricated, has less friction.
Yes.
And then do that for a while. Hope that the alignment that I have, like mentally, is also connecting to the task. And then do that until it reaches a satisfactory point. And then if I have courage, or if I summon the bravery to face the sort of failure or the thing that's not lubricated or the thing that has a lot of friction or whatever, then I go back to that. But it's basically like a place to put courage is where the friction exists, and a place to put your facile, active, ready to go mind is the place that is kind of friction free.
Would young Rick have walked through that kind of moving on to the next thing, or is that a more current Rick model?
No, that's
Always.
I remember being fairly clear, like early on, about what I call sort of this kind of experience in relativity, right? Like the idea that some people define love really differently, or the idea that some people define violence really differently, or some people define positive mental attitudes. Because growing up punk is one of those things that you learn a lot about durability through skateboarding.
Yep.
You learn a lot about love because it's a kind of fraternity, sorority. It's kind of it's a brotherhood, sisterhood thing, particularly in Washington, D.C. in the 80s. And you also learn a lot about violence, and it's not fair that you do, but in the 80s, people went out of their way to perform acts of violence on punk people.
Yeah.
And
now it's like a fashion trend. It's kind of strange.
yeah, because there was a fashion marker all along. whether it's sort of like Vivian Westwood in the proto-punk design stuff in the 70s in the UK, but there's been signifiers all along. But I think the risk of being having some violent action against you is different now than it was then.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more like being a trans person today, which there is a significant risk of violence being put upon you for being trans, and then also wanting to express yourself fully in that, or being non-binary and wanting to express that. And I think that was the tension of the time, and this is the tension of this time.
Yeah, no, that's a super good corollary. I recently got into a talk with a friend about using this term creatives. And I realized that I use that word a lot when I'm talking to people who are outside of our sphere, people who aren't creative directors or art directors or illustrators, any of those kind of people. And it was funny because I've gone into this habit recently of telling people I'm a graphic designer, mainly because, I run my own studio, whatever it is, but I'm trying to impress on people that I'm telling you I'm this because it's reflective of my problem solving capabilities. And I think people somehow see that as like a narrow slot, or, some people don't even like labels. And you said something to me when we met, and I do think I heard this right. Did you say at some point you stopped calling yourself a graphic designer? Because I even noticed there's no word graphic in it. And one of the things I talked to my design students a lot is the difference between little d design, laying stuff out on pages, and big D design, which is what I call it. Like, that's more like problem solving world, right? Like, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? And it might not fit in Illustrator or InDesign. It might be a strategy. It might be, your work gets so much bigger because you talk to people even about like social and political stuff and helping build plans and programs. You want to talk a little bit about like how you see yourself now as like the way you describe yourself. It's bigger than graphic design for sure, but that is definitely the way I came to know you. And I respect that term, but I also kind of want to hear what you think about that.
I'm a huge fan of you calling yourself exactly what you want to call yourself.
Okay.
Like, really,
Yeah.
I am. That's a huge thing for me. Whether it's a label or not, it's all for you. It's all for you. I will call you by the name of your choosing. What I figured out about design along the way was that if you let yourself apply this particular kind of training to other types of challenges that require organization, that require structures, that require mapping, that require like sort of teaching skills or teaching ways. If you apply that to a number of different places, you might find a place that really gets you excited, and that excitement will carry you into subject matter expertise, and then that subject matter expertise will carry itself into a kind of sphere of interest that is bigger, and you'll continue to learn in that new sphere. It could be that the intersection of art ideas and graphic design stays in ideas but becomes a generative mark maker, like someone over there is doing, right? I mean, it could be that, and that's really rich and that's really powerful. Or it could be that you say, I view the current circumstance as like a problem that hasn't been talked about in the most raw terms. And therefore, I'm here to offer my particular facility and my particular way of thinking, or my brain, to this challenge. And what's cool about doing that is that you get to bring exactly as much of you as you decide with you into it, which I am a Black person, I am an immigrant, I am a Jewish person, Shabbat Shalom, and Free Palestine, fuck that apartheid genocide project. I'm a father, I'm a widow, I'm a lot of things.
Yeah.
So if you walk forward, like what that particular kind of informed identity can do, and I'm a punk, right? What that particular kind of informed identity might do when asked to talk about racism, like I won't step into it and make a Black Lives Matter poster, right? Like that to me doesn't make a lot of sense, because what people will sense from that is that I am protecting myself. And what's more true is that I am prepared to exactly die for this. Like have been all my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm prepared to die. I'm okay with that. So to me, the instrument that I decided to make was that coaster that says there will be consequences here for racist behavior. Bigots walk, don't come back.
Yeah.
And I made that poster for a bunch of businesses in Denver that they could just put up in their windows. So it talked about the possible consequences of racism that would be put upon racists, and it talked about safety, and it talked about how Black people could feel in that place, like allyship was an important aspect of their particular attitude. So that's what I made.
Right.
But it comes from an understanding of who I am all the way through those identities, and a real commitment to say, yeah, no, like other people are solving that in very specific ways. I kind of see a different problem, and the problem is all of this still exists because there are no consequences.
Yeah.
And the moment that you put beating your wife as a crime and that there would be consequences, guess how many less women get beaten?
Right.
Right? And guess how many more men are like prosecuted as like domestic violence, right? And how uncommon that can become. And the same thing is true of other things. Like when discriminating against gay people became illegal, there were consequences. Guess what stopped happening, right? A certain amount of that was reduced. We have a long way to go in all places, always, but to me, consequences would be for the win.
Well, and I do think that that's one thing, what I was saying, that your work in some way stands out to me in the sense of up there with the Tibor Kalmans and stuff of the world, because I think you do something that I wish was more commonplace in design, that you're using your skill set in communication to really use it as an opportunity to talk about the things that are affecting you or you're believing in. And I don't see that enough in creatives anymore. I do goofy like side projects, but I don't think they're driven to the level of like social impact and that kind of stuff that I see in your work. And I think it's fantastic. And I was going to ask you, like, do you feel like that I don't know, I'm going to call it, I keep putting in this category of commercial creativity, the business of doing design, and why so many designers function the way they do. And I'm seeing it more, finally. There are certain designers I respect that are kind of starting to make things in the art world and things like that and share expression and points of view that are outside of a paid engagement. And I think that's something I see a lot in your work, is that you're doing stuff that is very connected to your community, but is also like, I feel like telling people this. And you go around and you give coasters out and you put posters up. Like, do you wish you saw that more in the rest of the design community, or are you okay being the kind of, you're like, this is just what I'm choosing to do? Do you feel like that we would be better off if more designers were using their capabilities to do some of the things that you're communicating?
I imagine there's exactly as much shit out there to pay attention to as there needs to be. Telling people to make more.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot.
There's a lot of stuff out there. I think my message isn't make more graphic design. My message is know who you are. If you can, know the history of your circumstance so that you have an awareness of like what it is that you control and what it is that you've inherited. Because I think that that's an important sort of battle against lived trauma and also against anxiety and depression is to be aware of your circumstance. And if you believe a thing, you know, like try thinking about what it means to believe it all the way. Like a good example of that would be like if you think you love Black people, practice loving a Black person that tells you no. Practice the idea of like letting Black people say no. If you think you love women, practice the idea of women saying no. It's truly liberatory for women to know that the no doesn't cost them something.
Right.
Yeah. Right, ladies?
That there isn't a consequence.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking liberating. and it's liberating for Black people too, to know that we can be appreciated even if we don't say yes to everything.
You've touched a little bit on this, and the one kind of like, you know, we talked about the expanse and the line of things that you have to do and not enough time to do all of them. But this notion of distribution in your life and that expansion across all these things, from projects like Black Astronaut Research Project to the bookstore to the radio show to the nonprofit work. You do commercial work, letterpress printing, all of that stuff, education, speaking, family is.
Right.
I loved what you said earlier too, because I'm very much in this thing that kind of really at the end of the day, here we are talking about creativity, but fuck design at some point, because it's really family and love if you boil it down, right?
You know, I mean, when was the last time design gave you the kind of confidence to get up in the morning and have purpose?
There's a fight sometimes to wake up. You're like, I gotta get stoked on this.
It can be a struggle.
Yeah.
So the things that give you energy and the things that give you confidence, I think just leaning into that and being like, kind of get more clear about the role of love, get more clear about the role of like taking that good idea all the way to its like maximum positive effect. Right? Because the maximum positive effect is seeing your own, being grateful and seeing your own abundance, and then gifting, you know, things to people. When someone says, hey man, do you got a buck? You go, actually, I do.
Yeah.
You know? And be prepared to say, actually, I do.
Right.
You know, and have a buck on you. Because I know we live in a kind of a cashless world sometimes. Or
it's all crumpled up.
Next time you're at Target, you know, like buy an extra 6-pack of socks and then give that to the person who is asking you for money, because they do also need fucking socks.
Yeah.
You know, so being prepared to take a good idea to the maximum and to behave in a way that's like super consistent with a positive outcome of your values. That to me is my message. It's not really do more design. The design of your life so that you have these things in your car so that when called into action, you can perform that action and be a caring member of the community that you're already a fucking part of.
Yeah.
You know, that's
but to me,
design.
that is the punkest thing you can do. You know what I mean? Like, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
And so, like, you know, a lot of people talk about like work-life separation, but the most interesting thing to me, and I gave up on that a long time ago. I see it as all blending together.
It's a blur.
Yeah. And so, like, you literally live in your work.
I live 15 feet away.
Yeah.
20 feet away from the closest printing press. Yeah, sure.
And so, like, do you feel like it's a conscious effort to balance it, or has it always just been kind of like you said, like the blur? It just no, man, that's just the life I like exist in.
I didn't always live there. You know, sometimes I didn't have a printing press, and then sometimes I lived 1.3 miles away from that printing press, depending on what's going on in life. You know, like. As you know, there's one of your children, one of your offsprings close by. You know, like, as you know, when you have kids and they become a part of your life, like what you do and what your schedule looks like at the coffee shop and what, you know, how you are in this life largely depends on the schedule that you give yourself based on the needs of your family. And so those things ebb and flow and change. And, you know, what shows up is opportunities. Like if you all of a sudden synchronize with somebody who you really enjoy seeing at your coffee shop because your kid just entered, you know, first grade, and you're like, oh shit, I'm like half an hour back of my life, you know, and I'm going to spend it sitting right here with my pen, with my pad, like, and then here comes somebody who is valuable to that experience. Like you all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys did this, but I mean, you just click into a schedule with people.
Yeah.
And it's great, great fun. I mean, so at one point or other, you know, you grow up and
Do we have to?
well, at one point or other, you grow up and you say, I want to own the club that I'm seeing this show in, or I want to own the bar that I'm having this drink in, or I want to, and you know, what I said was I want to own the bookstore
Yeah.
that I'm getting all this essential knowledge from. I want to own a tiny, tiny venue for people to experiment in. I want to nurture talent wherever it is and be the person that's like going to put a lot of energy behind other people expressing themselves because that's a signal that we all need to kind of be a little bit more a part of. So that's what happened to me along the way. Like the blur became the childhood vision to continue to be a punk in the way that I remember being a punk. Remember, like I wrote this thing a long time ago that said, design from the precise point of understanding. And the precise point of understanding is a teaching moment for the next person. So then what I've done is I've continued to recreate the positive experiences that I've had. And I saw someone else build a skate ramp, so I didn't have to do that.
Right.
Right. But along the way, I didn't see someone else own a bookstore that was absolutely compelled to carry the work of queer, female, Black intellectuals.
Russian tattoos.
Well, the Russian tattoo book is
sick,
a
actually.
great piece of fun. And design books and art books that tell the story of just incredible amounts of talent and so on and so forth. So what would have been 4 bookstores for me turned into 1, and I now
But it
own
seems so cohesive too and purposeful. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't
sure.
feel like
Well, it's driven by a very big vision. Like
Right.
it's driven by memory. It's driven by, you know, like my lived experience. It's driven by that. So See Here bookstore in New York City was one of my first favorite bookstores. It was a music bookstore, hence the name See Here. You know, the Academy bookstore was the first place that I started buying jazz records, and I traded complete works of Marcel Duchamp in 1992 there for $400 in trade on jazz records, and that's when I fell in love with jazz, or that's the time when I started collecting jazz. You know, and these experiences, you know, like I have a first edition biography of Arthur Ashe. I've got Shirley Chisholm's biography. I've got so many beautiful freaking books, and some of them are like, when I meet the people who need to have them.
Is this how the sharing came out? You open your own library, right? Not the bookstore. You open a part of your library.
We have a
for-
design reading room now.
Reading
Yeah, I
room,
moved
yes.
all the design books down from the library upstairs in our sort of.
And so this is
conference
open.
room.
Design students can come in. Anyone can come in and sit down and hang out in the reading room and check out your. And probably are the like first edition Arthur Ashe, is that in there or?
It actually is on the bottom shelf of that, but don't fuck with it. But yeah, I have full runs of Emigre magazine. I have full
love
runs
Emigre.
of I magazine. I have academic journals on visual language. I have a lot of type specimen books that are.
But I think it's incredible that you like
100
offer this
years.
up. Like
Yeah.
that strip that I would say you own in Denver is like, to me, it just felt like just a designer's dream. If I was in school, I want to hang out there now. And here I am at, you know,
Yeah,
doing
here we
this a
are
long
burning time on
Yeah.
a Friday morning in Boulder instead. It is available for other people for sure. It's our open hours are Thursdays from 5 to 8 p.m. And we also are demoing or printing community work on our printing presses at that same time. So we host that, and by we, I mean myself and a couple of other really qualified attendants, Aaron Middleton, Rafael Fajardo. You know, those guys are with me in this mission to print for the community, print truth to power, and host a conversation about what design might be in that space.
One of the things that that I think is really interesting about your work, and it's something I see in design today quite a bit, is the ability to reason and make sense of complexity. Like, you don't seem to shy away from like complexity, and even some of your talks that you've done, like what design might mean, is that
yeah.
and there's the crazy chart, like, and I say crazy charting, but like if you pay attention and absorb it, you're doing multiple things there. You're communicating idea, but you're also forcing your viewer to like learn and participate in it. And I think that's something that like you mentioned, there's a lot of shit out there right now, right? And I think that it is hard for people to pay attention to. We even touched on this point about that Rick Pointer book, where he was talking about an industry ceases to exist if there isn't debate around it, right? And long form discussion, and the act of actually like reading something and going, I don't even know what that word is, and walking over to your dictionary, that act of conscious learning, I see actually in some of the ways you take people through, I'm gonna call it visual problem solving, communicating an idea on a screen or print it out. Do you feel the same way, that you don't see enough of that out there right now? I feel like everyone just gives you everything. There's no participation in it anymore. And some of your work, or maybe that's why it has more of a permanence or an impact on me personally, is that I feel like I have to engage with it to get as much out of it, versus reading like, you know, a Patagonia Instagram ad or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Patagonia Instagram ad's not going to ever win a battle for intellectual superiority.
Right.
But that's not to say that like my work is only about intellectual superiority or that kind of forced teaching.
Yeah.
I think that it's an invitation to like think about terms that may be subjective and difficult to unpack, or it's an invitation to lean into someone else's well-informed identity and what that might produce. Because to an immigrant, the word constraint means something quite different to like a person who is, like well-studied in mid-century modern design and fairly well focused on the work of Charles and Ray Eames. The word constraint can have a different effect, or even the understanding of Paul Rand or Massimo Vignelli, the idea that these guys had self-informed and self-created constraints, like that's an important thing, but it doesn't mean the same thing to an immigrant or a Black person.
Right.
And so constraints take on dimensions. And I think that sometimes teaching people about the dimensionality of design and the possibility of things versus just kind of saying what is objectively true, which could be true. Less is sometimes more, but really sometimes less is just less and more is just more. It's kind of a dream state to say less can be more.
Right.
You're trying to, again, back to this notion of optimization. So, it's a viewpoint that says that short, pithy, smart things are valuable. And there's also a viewpoint that says that the invitation to go deeper is interesting to some of the people, some of the time, if the subject is right and the time is right.
Right.
And I'm okay with that many people.
Right. And it illustrates the point that I think there is an oversimplification, because I've even said this to clients before, that I'll realize at some point in helping them work through a communication problem, that if we dumb this down and we made it simple, it actually diminishes the value of what they're really trying to sell, communicate, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Do you remember what I said when we were talking about it? I said it does three things, right? Like making something simple when it is in fact complex does three things. Number one is that it takes people out of the realm of relearning or learning. It changes the way that they interact with something. They interact with it as if they should know it.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Which is not learning.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because it's familiar already. I know this. Yeah.
For some reason, it sounds familiar, right? Yeah, but it's not necessarily accurate or true that you understand it. Like having one's cake and eat it too. That's bullshit. It's actually to have eaten one's cake and still have it.
Right.
That is actually the term, right?
Yeah, that's the translation. That's the true translation.
To have eaten one's cake and still have it, not to have one's cake and eat it too.
Yeah. And I think I've heard that the Dieter Rams thing is translated wrong too. Less is more it's actually less is better.
No, good design is as little as possible.
That's what it is.
Is Dieter Rams, and that can be circumstantially true.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because style is a part of design, and style is a fucking burden.
True.
Right.
It's totally true.
It's constantly shifting and moving, and the public has one idea of what style is trying to, sort of impress upon us or imbue a statement with. And then we have a whole other idea of like sort of futuring with style. And so style is a huge burden. In fact, I respect stylists.
As in the true stylist, like photo stylist, that kind of thing, fashion stylist.
I just mean I'm not very good at it.
But I love it that you love things that you might not be good at. Okay, a little bit of fun time here. So these
Okay,
are going to be some choose them scenarios.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Let's go.
So I should actually ask this one: breakfast or lunch?
It's always breakfast.
Okay. Being the DC hardcore kid that I love, minor threat or Fugazi? I mean, it's all Ian. Just different phases of Ian.
I am a patient boy.
There you go. Okay. Wood type or metal type?
If you're casting, it's type metal all day. And if you're trying to get a poster ready for tomorrow morning's march, it's wood type all day.
Cool.
Sorry.
We had to talk about Soffiker for a little bit.
That's fun.
Yeah, that was cool. East Coast, West Coast, or smack in the middle?
Oh, East Coast.
Nice. Talking about design, doing design, or writing about design?
Robert says yes. One more time.
Talking about design, doing design, or writing about design?
You have the correct sequence.
Interesting. I like it. Cool. Last one, and I think I know the answer. Awesome. Optimism or pessimism?
It's too late to be a pessimist.
Yeah, there you go. Love it. I want to wind down with this. I mentioned that there's a permanence to your work and impact, and you're still full steam ahead. And I love that, like about people, I feel like where we're at in our careers. When it comes time to look back on the impact you've made, what matter means, what do you hope the remembrance is? Do you think about that at all? Like, man, I really wish that people would just see me in this way, or hope they realize that I left this thing behind, or I set this up for them to take to the next place.
Many years ago, many years ago, someone who I trusted, who worked with me, said to me, "Rick, do you realize that the young version of you couldn't afford to work here?" And in a moment, I shifted my energy forever towards making sure that the kindness that I experience from Bob and
Bobs.
John, and again, just like probably two more important people over here, but that the people who experience me would experience kindness and openness and not experience the sort of the door being closed ever, that I would find a way to be polite and open the door for them as they came closer and closer to the thing that I cared about or the thing that I love in design. And that's the hope, is that they're just encouraged to continue to do it. Whether or not I'm in the story, I like to say that, the perfect place is to be the tiniest footnote in someone else's fantastic story about their great success and their great invention and their great leadership. And for me to be like just this tiny little footnote in it, because it's remarkable how just a handful of acts of kindness can change someone's trajectory.
Completely, yeah.
And that they can experience caring from other people, and that gives them a kind of confidence that even though they grew up with people throwing full cans of beer at the back of their head while driving down Old Keene Mill in Fairfax County, Virginia,
that like, it's more than that. It's bigger than that. It's better than that. It has greater possibility than that. And it takes like two, three people max to propel someone into the kind of confidence it means to make and to be and to show other people kindness.
It's amazing. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really, and if you all haven't checked out Matter Studio or been down in Rhino and checked out the bookstore, please make it down there. It is something so special. It's fucking amazing. Thank you so much for being here and doing what you do. This is the first Friday month, our first Friday event every month. So please come back, see us next month. Our next guest is an artist named Andrew Barker. Fantastic watercolorist and very graphic in nature, and a really interesting backstory. So thank you so much. Love you all. Thank you for being part of my community.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be part of yours. And thank you, Rick. Dude, so good. I really appreciate you. That was great.